If I were to go into a normal posture and I go into retraction of the shoulder blade and external rotation, so my arms are in a neutral position right now, when I go straight out to the side, if you can see, right now my middle deltoid is right over here. So the center of gravity is... Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome back to another episode of Ask Me Anything. Steven here with Team U4Work, and today's question comes from Dusten who would like to know, do you have any videos on side delt training? I've been looking for like 10 minutes and can't find any. Well, Dusten, ask and you shall receive. This is a follow-up question to Dusten's last question from last week where he asked if the side delt raise was a push or pull pattern. If you haven't seen the video, I'm going to include a link right up over here. But with regard to today's video, I'm going to be taking you through various deltoid variations, and specifically, we're going to be doing the side lateral raise. With regard to the side lateral raise, there's a few things that I want to mention right off the bat before I get on with the actual demonstration of the exercises. The first thing is, ideally, if you have perfect posture, what you want to do when you're doing side delt training is you want to make sure that you're standing nice and tall, your shoulders are going to be retracted, and you're going in the coronal plane, so your arms are going straight out to the side. However, if you are trying to specifically target the lateral deltoid or the middle deltoid, then this isn't going to be ideal for every single person, because based off of your posture, that's going to dictate whether or not you're going to be able to get maximum recruitment of the lateral deltoid muscle. And what I mean by that is a lot of people tend to be presenting with medially rotated shoulders, meaning their arms are going to be rotated inward. And when you have that, what's going to happen is the anterior deltoid is going to be projected anteriorly. And when you end up going into retraction of the shoulder blade and external rotation, what's going to happen is you are going to shift the anterior deltoid posteriorly, and that is going to place the center of gravity directly over the anterior deltoid. And I made this little outline right over here of my lateral delt just so you could see. So right now, if I were to go into a normal posture and I go into retraction of the shoulder blade and external rotation, so my arms are in a neutral position right now, when I go straight out to the side, if you can see, right now my middle deltoid is right over here. So the center of gravity is going to be projecting downward right onto the anterior and middle deltoid. So what you would want to do, if you do have medially rotated shoulders, you want to get into that perfect posture, put your arm out to the side, and then you want to hinge forward at the hips until you notice that your lateral deltoid or your middle deltoid is directly below the center of gravity. That way the center of gravity, all of the force is going directly over the middle deltoid. It's not a huge thing that you need to worry about, but it is a little minor modification that you can incorporate to get maximum recruitment of the lateral deltoid. And then a couple other things worth noting is going to be the hand positioning. Depending on whether you are doing your training with external rotation, neutral position, or medial rotation, then you could target whether or not you are going to be targeting the anterior fibers, the posterior fibers, or the middle fibers of the lateral deltoid muscle. But I'll be getting into that when I get into the actual demonstrations. And without further ado, here are my top 5 strengthening exercises for the lateral deltoid. For these first 3 variations, we're going to be playing around with the level of inclination of the body, and that's going to be to target the different ranges of the actual muscle. Basically, we have internal range, external range, and mid-range. We also have total range and extreme range, but when we are looking at the ranges, you could break it down into thirds of the movement. The first third of the movement is going to be the external range. The second third is going to be the middle range, and then the last third of the movement is going to be the internal range. So depending on what range of motion you want to play with, you can play around with these different variations. But the first variation for the side lateral raise is going to be your basic standing lateral raise. For this variation, you're just going to be standing out straight and you're going to go straight out to the outside. You want to make sure that you're standing nice and tall with your shoulders retracted. And again, if you do have medially rotated shoulders, you may want to go ahead and hinge forward a little bit so that the center of gravity is going to be projecting downward straight onto the lateral deltoid. But this is the side lateral raise. And then, as I mentioned, we can play around with the different fibers. If we want to target more of the anterior fibers of the side of the middle deltoid, then what we would want to do is go into lateral rotation. So we would bring the arms out to the side and go straight out to the side. If we want to target the middle fibers, we're going to go in a neutral grip, so the palms are facing our body. And then if we want to target the posterior fibers, we're going to go into pronation, so go into medial rotation of the humerus, pronation of forearm, and then go right out to the side. And that is for the standing side lateral. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the lean away lateral. So the second exercise variation is going to be the lean away lateral. For this one right over here, we are going to be targeting the internal range of the motion. And I'm not sure if I remembered to mention this earlier, but for the first one that we did, that we were targeting the middle range. For the internal range, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and lean away, and then what we wanna do is just go straight out to the side. And the reason we're targeting the internal range is because when our arm is parallel to the ground, that is when it is gonna be the most difficult. And when it is parallel to the ground, our arm is going to be above the level of horizontal. So that is why this one over here is targeting specifically the internal range. And once again, we could play around with the level of medial and lateral rotation to target the different fibers. If we want to target the anterior fibers, what we would do is go into external rotation and go out to the side. If we want to target the middle fibers, we're going to go ahead and keep a neutral position. And if we want to target the posterior fibers of the lateral deltoid, then we would go ahead and go into medial rotation and pronation of the forearm. And that is for the lean away lateral. Next, the third strengthening exercise for the lateral deltoid is going to be the incline, the side-lying incline deltoid raise. For this one right over here, we're going to be specifically targeting the external range. What we want to do is we're going to prop ourselves up on a bench, and we want the bench roughly 15 to 30 degrees of inclination. We're going to go ahead and lay down on it sideways, and then with the arm, same principle of action. We're just going out to the side and then coming back in. We could do the exact same thing with this exercise. If we want to target more of the anterior fibers, what we're going to do is go into lateral rotation of the humerus. If we want to just go ahead and target the middle fibers, neutral position. And then if we want to go ahead and target the posterior fibers, what we're going to do is go into medial rotation. And those are the side-lying incline lateral raise variations. Next, the fourth lateral raise variation is going to be the L raise. For the L raise, as the name implies, you want to flex your elbow to 90 degrees so that it's shaped as an L, and then you're going to go straight out to the side. For these ones over here, we're not playing around with medial or lateral rotation, and the benefit to this one right over here is with the L raise, a lot of people also tend to have a really weak external rotators. So by doing the L raise, we're not only going to be able to strengthen the lateral deltoid, we're also going to be able to strengthen the lateral rotators of the shoulder. And the reason we're doing that is because when we have this L shape right over here, we're going to be training the lateral rotators isometrically. What I mean by that is when you go out to the side, gravity is going to want to pull you into medial rotation, and you have to use your lateral rotators to keep that dumbbell right out to the side. So it's a way that you can isometrically train the lateral rotators as well. And then last, the fifth and final deltoid variation for the lateral deltoid is going to be the L raise, and we are going to eccentrically load it. So this one right over here, if you are trying to really increase the strength in your lateral deltoid, this is going to be a terrific variation, because when you go with your palms tucked in like here with the L raise, it's going to be a lot easier and you can lift a lot more weight. And typically, you're going to be a lot more strong eccentrically. So we could eccentrically load it by doing an L raise on the way up, then straightening out the arms, and then coming down. So we go ahead, L raise, straighten out, and then come down. And that is one way to eccentrically load the L raise. And there you have it. Those were my top 5 side lateral raise exercise variations. Go ahead and give them a try. And if you have given them a try, go ahead and drop your comments down in the comment section and let me know what you guys thought of those exercises. And then in terms of programming for these exercises, ideally what you would want to do, if you are doing them on your shoulder or your pressing day in general, what you would want to do is incorporate them later on into the routine. And the reason being, when you end up doing training, you want to do your core movements first. So your core movements, those are going to be your compound lifts, things like your overhead pressing, and then your isolation or your accessory lifts you would want to do at the end of the routine. So you would want to do your core exercises first, things like your log presses, your shoulder presses, any of your compound movements, and then at the very end of the routine, then you would end up doing your side lateral raises or any type of isolation work. And in terms of the sets and repetitions, it's going to depend on what exactly your goal is. If it is your goal to increase your strength endurance, you're going to want to do higher repetitions. If it's your goal to increase hypertrophy, so muscle mass, you're going to do a moderate amount of repetitions. And then if it's your goal to increase your strength, then you would want to do lower repetitions. And if you guys have any questions with regard to specific programming, with regard to exactly how many sets, exactly how many repetitions, go ahead, ask your questions down in the comment section if you would like me to answer that question. But aside from that, that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these Q&A videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.